Okay, we've all seen the article around how having a boyfriend is embarrassing. And I think it's now formally codified this new social hierarchy between men, women, and heterosexual relationships. What this really showed me is you cannot gain social status from being partnered anymore unless like there's very fringe cases, but it's rare, right? Being partnered to a regular dude, you're not gaining social status. However, you can lose social status by being partnered. And this is really, really critical. Being is because as humans in this social ecosystem, we participate in something called associative status, meaning we derive your status by the associations around you, the school you went to, the people that you hang out with, the places you visit. All of that is how we derive your social status. And now the status symbol of partnership, particularly male partnership, has now almost flipped on its head. And I think a lot of this comes down to women are simply out earning men, particularly in some demographics. And so where men's inherent status value lied in financial gain, that may no longer be the case. Anyways, I just think it's really fascinating. And that's my 2 cents.
I think we have to be careful when we get new information, we get an article or something that we want to believe because it fits our worldview. But when you pressure test that with the truth, you find out it's actually lacking. We constantly hear when women say that they're out earning men and this is causing some of the problems. But Department of Labor, has the actual truth. There's a $5,000 difference in earning between men and women, and men are on top. In every race, Asian, Hispanic, and white, there's still a difference. Um, but we know women hold the majority of the debt. So even if you say we were earning the same amount, there's a large discrepancy in sort of debt. But I usually don't like to talk about the statistic because it's unimportant, right? It's more what's more important in this conversation is when we link these things, we take something that we want to be true. We take something else that we want to be true and try to mash these things together to come up with something that feels good to, right? When I hear it, when I listen to it, it makes me feel good. So therefore, it has to be the truth. The fact is, when Vogue published an article about having a boyfriend is embarrassing, that really is true in online spaces. Outside of the internet, the vast majority of people don't believe this, don't feel like this. The vast majority of people still think they're better together than apart. But if you just get all your information second or third hand from TikTok, from articles that you don't really read that are summarized for you, then you're constantly forming conclusions based off they make me feel good rather than they have any sort of nugget of truth to them. Before we continue, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss new uploads. I picked this article because I thought it was important in the fact that often see these sort of things happen where people put together information that they want to be true. It feels good to them, but in reality, we never do the most basic research to see if what we're saying has any real validity to it. If all of this is presupposed on that women are out earning men, you believe it because you hear it all the time, right? And it should be harder to fool us, right? It should be harder for us to begin to think that I just heard something, I consuming it from enough sources that it must be true. But the internet is like a game of telephone. Someone starts with some information on some podcast, and we simply continue to believe it. You know, because we heard it from an authoritative figure, we heard it from someone that we liked the way they moved, we liked the things that they've done in their life, and we just go with that. Now, it seems innocuous until you relate it to the prevalence of scams. You simply want to believe this, so you buy this course rather than thinking, yeah, is it not? It's probably not possible to be a billionaire at 22. That's not the likelihood off selling watches, but you thought it was right. So because the ad looked good, or the trappings of wealth were there, or he was in the right spaces, having on the right pack, he was guest on the right podcast. So you buy in, and it costs you something. Right, and the simplest thing, the simplest cost, I think, is often just money rather than I fooled your brain. I've got you to think and believe a certain rhetoric because if I can make you believe this one time, I can make you believe it again and again and again. But let's let this play again and let's dissect a couple of points.
Okay, we've all seen the article around how having a boyfriend is embarrassing. And I think it's now formally codified this new social hierarchy between men, women, and heterosexual relationships.
Again, this is based on a woman's opinion, and I'm talking about the author of the article, of the people that she interviewed, of how they believed their relationships were. And it wasn't so much that my person is embarrassing, but the things about soft launching someone on your social media, how it might be embarrassing to find out that uh that when things don't work out you have to remove them, or you're scared, hey, this person may be dating someone else. It wasn't so much originally when it first came out on Reddit, it wasn't so much that I find my partner that I selected to do life with an embarrassment, right? Because I think if that were the case, that would also reflect pretty poorly on you, who decided to be with someone that they were embarrassed by. Instead, we took that, the inflammatory title, we liked it, we ran with it, and we continue to believe that this is what it meant because it fit a better narrative. It got better traction when you thought it was just simply saying, "Hey, women are embarrassed to be with men," because that fits what we've been saying, what we've been seeing online for such a long time. Men are the weaker or the lesser of the species, and it's problematic to be with them. They're the cause of most of the strife on the planet in relationships. They're the cause of most of divorces, even regardless of who files. The man is the error. The man is the abomination. So naturally, an article like this makes sense. I checked out some of her posts that she did before, and I think she was even mentioning how she had been trying to find places to for some of her other articles to land for such a long time, and Vogue picked that one up. I mean, that's sort of just a life of journalism. But here, because it sounds good and it makes you feel good and makes you support what you continue to believe to be true, that men are the problem, it's an easy thing to put an other erroneous information together and believe that works.
What this really showed me is you cannot gain social status from being partnered anymore, unless like there's very fringe cases, but it's rare, right?
I don't, I mean, if you're getting into a relationship with people to gain social status, then that's a completely separate conversation. But you absolutely do gain social status. You know, speaking for men, married men are looked at as more stable, as more safe. When you look at the higher C-suite, board positions, typically they're married men, right? That's still the norm. An article is not going to suddenly unseat the way the you know capitalism has been sort of since it's been working for such a long time. Even just the social capitalism that doesn't change because you have an article. It changes when you believe it inherently, when it doesn't mean anything for your own life. If if a man's status, if you could not gain from a man's status, then his status would be unimportant. His wealth would be unimportant. How he's looked in his community, how he looks to others, how he even looks online would be unimportant. If the article made this thing like a radical like realization that, hey, for the first time ever, let's break away from thinking about men as chances to one up your status, as chances to improve how you look to the rest of the world, then I would call that a positive, a net positive. But the way she's going with it is completely, I think erroneous. That it's another reason why relationships don't work, right? That there's no point in being with a man because now being with a man decreases your societal value, how the rest of the world looks at you. And I think when we take a moment to just pause and think, we know that's not true, right? We debunk the later part of the assertion where you try to back it up, you try to underpin and anchor it with women out earning men. Try to use that, but we know that's false. I think it's a very safe assumption to say the rest of this is also false. And I think, and I know that society moves on a glacial sort of pace when you want to change some mores, right? It's a generational thing. You can't just have an article that comes out that isn't really read, right? That has this flash in the pan moment, and then it just becomes sort of like another layer on top of this, gigantic onion of how men are shit. Right? Now the term is boyfriend's embarrassing. Before it's, you wanted a man, but now having a man is embarrassing. So just another reason not to get with men. Yet we know it's still happening, right? Or at the very least, people are still having babies, but the act or the thought of being in an actual committed relationship seems to be slowly being eroded away. But listen, if you think I'm onto something here, or you think I missed something, let me know down in the comments. If you see videos on your screen, take a look at those and let me know what you think in those videos. And of course, if you listen to sound my voice, maybe you just like to hear me yap, but you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe so you can hear me some more. I'll see you in the next one.